All right. Welcome to another Cloudways Agency Breakthrough Masterclass. I'm your host, Brent Weaver, and today we are continuing our amazing masterclass on how to help your agency get more leads. And we have something really fun today. I think something special is that we're going to be mapping out a couple of agency owners' marketing engines live with you today. They're lead generation engines. So we're going to be thinking about how these agencies get leads. What are the different components that are actually creating those appointments on their calendar? And specifically, how can we actually turn these into predictable, repeatable, and scalable engines for these agencies? So we're going to be breaking down how they get leads today. We're going to be dissecting it step by step and looking at where are the opportunities to create growth, where are the opportunities to add more leads into their business. As we know, getting more leads and the right leads into your agency are two of the most important elements for you to grow and create a thriving, sustainable business. So we're really excited to be hanging out with you all today for this Agency Breakthrough Masterclass. So if you haven't joined us for one of these before, this particular masterclass is 3 specific sessions. So the first session a couple weeks ago, we talked about some high-level concepts around generating leads for your digital agency. Today is about actually seeing in real time agency owners' specific lead generation engines, how they can improve those. And what I want you to be looking at is how do you take these concepts, how do you take this thinking and apply it to your business? And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about how to create scale and automation with your engines once they're up and running so that you're not the bottleneck and you can actually go do other things in your business, whether that's selling, focusing on your clients, or maybe just taking a vacation. So we're really excited to have you all here today. If this is your first time hanging out with us for an Agency Breakthrough Masterclass, my name is Brent Weaver. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called You Gurus. We are a business school for digital agencies, and I'm also a Cloudways maverick. Cloudways has given us this amazing platform to educate and empower digital agencies all over the world to grow more successful and more profitable businesses. So we're really thankful that Cloudways has created this platform for us. And if you need a cloud hosting platform, make sure you take a look at Cloudways. We'll be talking about the Cloudways Agency Partner Program later on in today's program. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely stick with us and we'll talk about how Cloudways supports agencies. As I mentioned today, we're focusing on mapping and fueling your lead engine. So one of the most common things for agency owners is they're spread way too thin in terms of marketing. One day you think you need to launch a podcast. The next day you're trying to keep up with social media and post to your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook page. Maybe you're thinking you need to start advertising. Maybe you need to, go out there and develop strategic partners. Maybe you're thinking, hey, I need to get my email list going. I haven't emailed my list in forever, right? There's all of these ideas. There's all of these platforms. There's all these tools. And honestly, it can get really overwhelming. And when we don't have a clear plan, when we're not clear about what our marketing engine is, instead of actually fueling our engine, instead of investing our time in fewer activities that are going to actually drive results, we spread ourselves way too thin across 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 different platforms. And we think, oh man, I need to update my website. It's like every web agency I know is always in this process of their lead engine problems are going to be solved once they just revamp their website. And the reality is most of the time we relaunch our website or we rebrand our company or we add projects to our portfolio and nothing really happens. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to get more leads, how to get more strategic about generating leads for your agency. And my goal is for you to be able to build a system that you can fuel in about 1 hour a week of your time. So we want to have clarity around what that engine is. And we also want to be clear around how we're going to fuel that engine. What's fun about today is we're going to be doing this as a hot seat session. So I've got a couple of awesome agency owners that are hanging out backstage with us here, and they're going to join us. And we're going to actually go through live what their engines are. We're going to talk about how to scale their engines, and break down those engines and really start to get clarity around what are those key numbers that are going to drive results for their business. So I hope you all have your pencils and pens ready to see how these agency owners are generating leads and pull ideas for how you can apply this to your own business. So what I want to do real quick is I'm going to welcome my other guests to the program here and introduce Harry Shaw. Good to see you, man. And David Ralston. Harry, why don't you tell our viewers a quick high level of who you are, what your agency is all about?
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, I run a design agency called Outcreate. I'm based out of Washington, D.C., and we mostly work with large enterprises, Fortune 500 companies. We help senior leaders at these companies with storytelling and presentation design. Our reason for being is all about helping those leaders tell their stories more effectively to their audience, help them get buy-in, help them get their message across to whoever they are influencing. And we do it all through presentation design. That's what we specialize in. Yeah. Brent, you're on mute. Yeah.
Look at that. That was like webinar 101. David, why don't you give a quick high level of who you are, what your agency is all about for our viewers today?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me today. I'm looking forward to this. So we started off as a web development, web design company. In the recent years, we branched out, realizing that what most of our clients, what they think they need is a website, but what they really need is their own marketing funnels. And so we started kind of getting into more of the root of what they're actually looking to accomplish. And in our case, it's kind of a case by case. We haven't really drilled down on a niche yet. So each case is a bit, unique unto its own, but we kind of help them develop a long-term plan to get from point A to point B to point C to point D and so on. And that's really been our strategy up to this point.
Awesome. Well, dude, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get to work. So for our viewers, before we get into our hands-on unpacking of our marketing engines, what I'd love to do is talk to you a little bit about what marketing engines are, right? What a lead generation engine is. And, I think for agencies, a lead, 99 times out of 100, maybe 999 times out of 1,000, a real lead is a scheduled appointment on your calendar, somebody who's interested in engaging you. So for Harry, that would be, a Fortune 500 company, somebody at those companies, a stakeholder that's scheduling an appointment on Harry's calendar and wants to know more about Harry's services. Same goes with David around, web design development or digital marketing. He's got a business that has a problem and they have scheduled an appointment on his calendar. So when you think about leads, I don't want you to think about your website traffic. I don't want you to think about how many people are signing up for your email list, how many Instagram followers you have, how many people following you on Facebook. While these are interesting metrics, what I want to instill in you and what we're going to be talking about today is how do we actually get a qualified prospect, somebody who meets your general ideal client criteria. How do we get that person to schedule an appointment on your calendar? Now, some people might say, hey, maybe a contact form's a lead, and that could be true. But today, let's really think about scheduled appointments as leads. So when I use that term leads, what happens is, when I use that definition of leads, it's a scheduled appointment, is it cuts through the noise, and hopefully it's going to give you clarity around what a marketing engine's job is going to be. It's not to drive all this traffic to your website. It's not to, have thousands and thousands of views. If you have a YouTube channel and you have, literally tens of thousands of views, but nobody's scheduling on your calendar, maybe there's a business model there to monetize YouTube, right? Or to become a paid influencer, right? But in terms of an agency, if you're doing done-for-you work, we want to create a scenario where you have some type of mechanism that turns those viewers into scheduled appointments. So you can go into strategy or discovery or go into scoping out a proposal or a project. So in the agency game, And honestly, I've been working with digital agencies now for going on well beyond 10 years. And I don't really know if I've met many that have a model where people can sign up and engage the service without actually having a conversation. And so when we use that definition of leads, sometimes it just helps create clarity all by itself. If there's one number you're going to track every week for marketing for your business, it needs to be how many qualified leads did I get? How many appointments booked on my calendar? And if that number is under 2 or 3, then likely your marketing engines probably need some work. So we're going to be going into exactly what those marketing engines are today and how they work. So on last session, we talked about the marketing engines scaling stages. So if you understand that a marketing engine exists, it's energy, it's lists, it's traffic that you have that you're able to convert into qualified appointments. It's some kind of system that you've built. They go through these 5 stages, and we talked about this in our last session. And I'll be using this terminology with David, with Harry today. We start off, we have a strategy. Think of a strategy as an idea. A strategy can be as simple as writing down something on a napkin at a restaurant as you're thinking about your business, right? Maybe it's like, hey, I'm going to run, webinars with Facebook traffic. That's how I'll get appointments. Like that could literally be written with a Sharpie on a napkin. Strategy does not have to be a 50-page document. But once we have that strategy, I'm going to get leads by doing webinars on Facebook with paid traffic, right? At some point, we have to prove that that is able to get us a scheduled appointment. So there's a big difference between having an idea. I'm going to use Instagram to grow my business. I'm going to get leads on LinkedIn, right? Having an idea, mapping out that strategy and actually proving it to get you that first appointment. Now, once you've gotten one appointment, a lot of agency owners fall into a trap where they get an appointment through one lead mechanism and then they think that they're marketing geniuses. And so then we go off and we, go and run and do some other marketing, right? And so then we got a lead on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go blog now and I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to launch a podcast, right? We're successful with one marketing channel or tactic one time. And so then we go out and try to be successful with every marketing tactic and channel. And that's where we want to avoid that pitfall as much as we can. And that's why we focus on that third stage, which is, can we repeat our success with that exact same mechanism, that exact same piece of content, that exact same channel? Now, once you have some repetition going, then you're able to create some predictability. Can you invest an hour, get a lead? Invest an hour, get a lead. Invest $500, get a lead. Invest $500, get a lead. And once you find that you have an engine that is somewhat predictable, then you can get into our scalable stage. And this is the most fun stage to be at with a marketing engine, where you can use this idea of doubling. I call it 2x levers. Let's say you're doing webinars on Facebook and you want to get twice as many leads and you're using paid traffic. Great. You get twice as many leads, you double your spend. And if you get twice as many leads by doubling your spend and you want twice as many leads again, then you double your spend again. But the only time we get into that scalable mindset is once we already have a proven engine, it's repeatable, it's predictable, and then we can start making some big bets with that engine. We can start making some big investments. And what we want to see is an engine get through all 5 stages before we move on to another engine. We want to see if we can actually create a scalable engine. And if we can create a scalable engine, we want to find the ceiling with that marketing engine before we move on to a second or third engine. Now, the problem is, of course, is oftentimes, especially as marketers who maybe are doing a lot of different services for our clients, is we come up with these really awesome strategies. And before we've really proven an engine, we start creating, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of the list goes on. We start to create a lot of ideas for how we're going to get leads, and we keep creating more and more and more. And this is where people start to burn out on marketing. So today we're going to walk through specifically David's situation with his marketing engine. How do we get more focus and clarity around his engine? And then finally, we're gonna run through Harry's engine today live as well. So, guys, are we ready today? We're ready to start rocking in this?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get into business. So this is a tool that we introduced in our first MasterClass module, It's the Marketing Engine Planner. And this walks through 4 basic stages of any marketing engine. As I mentioned to you, our main focus here with any marketing engine is that we are going to try to book some appointments. Okay? I mean, unless you guys have different ideas of what a lead is, Harry, for you, is a lead an appointment on your calendar?
Yep, it's a call. Yeah.
It's a call, right? Yeah, them actually showing up for the call would be obviously an appointment only goes so far, but it's a good place to start. David, would you agree? Like for you, an ideal scenario would be that you have more appointments with qualified prospects on your calendar?
Yeah, absolutely. And it would also be a call.
Yeah, cool. So we're getting calls on our calendars. That's awesome. So we're going to have a driver, which is some kind of mechanism that a mechanism or a call to action, some kind of offer that gets somebody to engage us in a call. And then we have our awareness, which is the actual thing that gets eyeballs on our marketing, gets eyeballs on who we are. That could be a blog post. That could be an ad. That could be a webinar. It could be a presentation or keynote from a stage. It could be an article inside of Google. It could be a conversation that you have with a prospect. There's some moment where awareness is created for your business. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then we have fuel. And fuel is really the money, the time, the lists, right? The money and the time that we can invest, and also the list or the followers, et cetera, right? It's that energy that's just sitting there that we need to do something with, right? We need to convert that into awareness. So this is what we're going to map through for each of you guys, okay? And if you're watching along today and you do have questions about how these marketing engines apply to your business, please make sure to let us know in the comments. So we're really excited to be walking through this with you guys today. All right, David, we're going to start with you. I know we talked about this a little bit pre-session, but I believe currently you're getting your leads through Google search. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we try to put attention on the GMB. Also, we do use social media in the sense that I will use my personal page to share certain graphics, and that generates some extra word of mouth too. But generally, and I'd say in the past year or two, it's been generated through Google searches in a local area, local SEO.
So local SEO. All right. So SEO is, and I love that we're gonna start with one that's a little bit more on the challenging side, right off the bat. And the reason that I think SEO is a challenging engine, it's a great engine. It can create. It's a very long game, and it's hard in the moments to, it's hard to have a lot of like you're going to do something today. Like I always tell people that, leads are the result of lead generation, right? Leads are like, if you get a lead in your inbox today, it's because you did something 6 days ago, 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, and sometimes 6 years ago. I still have like random people that reach out to me and they're like, "Hey Brent, I saw you at the you presented at the X Theme conference in 2015, and I remember your talk so well, and hey, by the way, did you have that proposal document or that course that you were giving away?" Right? And I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm like, it was like 6 years ago. I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" Right? So that's, lead generation is some activity that you do, and then leads are the results. Okay. And so ultimately with your engine right now, and let's just start with this Google search as your engine. Okay. So the idea here is that it's going to book us an appointment. So can you give me an idea on a weekly level? How many appointments do you think you're getting per week through your Google search work?
Well, so I guess it falls under that feast and famine kind of aspect, because that's how these leads generate too. Sometimes we'll get a handful to a dozen, and sometimes less than 2.
Would you say, so on average, it's somewhere between 2 to 12 per week?
More like, on average, probably more like 2 to 5 per week, to be honest.
Yeah. So I feel the you're like, I mean, that's so 2 to 5 per week is pretty good, right? And these are coming from the Google search, the Google local listings, et cetera, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got how are they booking a call in your calendar? What's the mechanism that's getting them to do that?
Well, they don't book a call. Okay. They'll fill out our contact form, is how the booking would happen. The other way is they will just call direct, and I'll take a short call with them and then schedule from there if they need a longer call.
Okay. So there is a contact form. There is a so this is just happening on your high level website. Like you have a regular website, like a .com, an agency site. People get to that site, they see your phone number, they see a contact form, they use that to reach out to you.
It seems that too. I noticed within the past 6 to 8 months that people are calling directly from the GMB. So I don't even think they're clicking on the website. Not all of them, but there's a percentage, and I couldn't give you that number. But I only know this because they'll say, "Can you send me some examples of your work?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Well, wait a minute, weren't you on my website?
Yeah.
That's why you called me." So I think they're just kind of going down the list because they're looking for these type of services, and we're on the list.
Totally. Yeah. So you have basically part of your awareness, right? Is your your GMB profile, right? And I think that could potentially sit under awareness. It could also, I might also think about that in terms of a conversion driver, right? So it's really kind of straddling these two ideas. I think I'm going to put it over in the driver component right now, because it's basically it's not necessarily helping you to build awareness, but it is a moment where somebody where they convert, right? And we'll kind of put it in 2 buckets right now. Okay. So, and I totally get that. I just went and took my car into the shop, and I ended up engaging a business. And I never went to their website. I looked at the Google My Business listing. I saw the gajillion 5-star reviews. I saw their location, and very much like your leads coming to you, I called their business directly, right? And that's totally fine, right? So the question is how are you getting your listings seen? What's the activity, or what are you doing to get your listings to rank better?
More off-site SEO, building directory listings and so forth. We don't do any article writing or any blogs, any of that kind of thing to generate keyword searches. I focus really on, and you have to understand, because of the nature of the business, we typically get these calls looking for web designs, and then we convert them over to our other services, because really that's ultimately what they're looking for. They just, kind of like you said in the beginning, they think, oh, if I get, have a website, it will fix my problems. And so, but that's how they're finding us. And because of where we're at, very competitive city, that has been the drill down up to this point. Is funneling them that way and then converting them.
Yeah. And here's my thoughts on this. And I'm really glad that you brought this up. Like, what are you actually, selling them? How does your sales process work? Are we, they're coming in needing a website, and we enlighten them that a website is really a marketing asset, and we need to do more than just a website. We need to, develop strategy and all this kind of stuff, right? Like, that's your sales process. Now, maybe it enters some of your content if there's more people available when we expand out our keywords and our focus and things like that. But
we do
from a marketing engine perspective, it doesn't really matter, right? As long as your qualified leads are showing up to a call with you, I'm not as concerned as to how they got there.
Right, and we do have those services, the other services listed on our site, but when I look at the analytics of it and just drill down, I can see that it's the website element that's generating the traffic more so than searches on the other services.
Okay, so I assume because it's a local listing, the Google My Business profile is in your local area.
That's right.
Okay, and then how many directories are you getting listed on per week?
Per week? Oh, geez, no. We're probably on, you know, 200. I think is where we kind of stopped, and this is why I'm here, Brent.
Yeah.
So no, we don't keep generating those. We haven't been.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So right now in terms of fuel, so I'm thinking about, okay, this is the engine, Google search and social. How much, when we think about the, do you know any data about how much traffic is kind of coming to your listing, your page?
Yeah, sure. We get not much at all. We probably get about 100 visitors a month on average. Sometimes between 1 and 500. We'll put it that way, 1 and 500.
To the actual Google My Business page?
Oh, that would be about 80% of that.
So you're getting 100 visitors a month to your website?
100 to 500 visits to the website a month. That's right.
Okay. Yep. Cool. And how much money are you spending on this engine to try to get more Google search or Google search / Google My Business traffic?
It would be in terms of time, and
Yeah.
honestly, recently that hasn't been doable just because of the schedule. But ideally, I want to be able to put in a good 25 hours a month if I could into it. But yeah, we're trying to look in outsourcing options with that.
So what are you doing like today? Like in the last 30 days, how much time have you put into this engine?
Nothing.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So you have this engine, dude, that is, I mean, first of all, it's proven, right? You're getting appointments through Google My Business, right? Are you doing anything else in terms of marketing for your business right now? Any other outside marketing?
Yeah, like I said, we'll use social media, but not anything aggressive. It's more, when we complete a job, we'll share it, we'll put it out there, and that will tend to generate, we'll get not a lot. We'll get some recommendations on Facebook, we'll get tagged when people are in groups saying, I need a web designer and things of that nature. So we try to keep up to date in that sense, but I wouldn't call that any aggressive marketing tactic.
Okay. Yep. So in your mind, what I want you to do is definitely separate your social, your organic social, and your Google My Business as two different engines. So, and that one does get you get some qualified leads through that. People book appointments with you as you post that content.
Yeah, not a lot, but sure.
Okay. Do you know how many?
It's probably been maybe a dozen calls over, but it's not much at all.
12 calls over like a year, a month?
Yeah, a year. I'd say over a year.
So 12 calls a year through organic social. And then we have this Google My Business engine that's getting you 2 to 5 calls a week.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. So, have you ever heard of the Pareto Principle?
Yeah.
Okay. So, they looked at, this is, I believe it was land ownership, and like 20% of, the population, or 20% of landowners owned 80% of the land, right? This was like way back when this dude Pareto, right? So they looked at this principle of the 20% creating 80% of the yield of the ownership, right? There's this kind of pattern that exists where like there's a small group of people, a small group of seeds in your farm, a small group of clients that typically produce 80% of the results, right? And so in terms of your marketing right now for your business, like if I were just to give you that quick outside the bottle feedback, your Google My Business, your Google search is driving 80% or more of the results. Okay. And how frequently are you posting on social?
Maybe 3 times a month, if that.
Okay. So you're doing 3 times 3 posts per month. So how long is that taking you?
What do you mean?
Like how much time do those 3 posts take? Like are you spending an hour a month, 2 hours a week?
All right. So in this case, when we complete a job, we kind of do a really nice mock-up. Say if it's a web design, and we'll do a real nice mock-up of the website, graphic, and then kind of list, oh, we did A, B, C, and D for this client. And that goes on a website, so it's kind of a double, hit. So we just post it on the social media. It probably takes me about an hour to put it together just because of the mock-up involved with that. But again, it goes on the website as well. So adding it to social is just kind of a no-brainer. That takes seconds,
Yep. All right. So you're doing 3 of these a month. I'm going to say 3 hours a month. But here's where I'm looking at. I'm going, okay, on this engine, you're getting 12 calls a year and you're putting in 3 hours a month. On this Google My Business, Google search, you're putting in 0 hours, $0, and you're getting 2 to 5 appointments a week. And right now you told me you're basically not getting very much, if at all, traffic to your website, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what I would probably do in this scenario, if this was my engine, right, where I look at this, kind of coming back to our stages here, you have this strategy using Google Organic, Google My Business to get you leads. It is proven. You get leads. It is repeatable. Leads have booked on your calendar, a couple times a week are coming in through this engine, right? Now, it doesn't sound like you're putting a lot of strategic energy into that. That's okay, right? That's how a lot of people are. They set something up, they kind of forget about it. It works in the background. They don't think much about it, right? To some degree, your engine is also predictable. Like you could probably look at your past performance for the last 3 months. You could probably identify like, hey, this engine is going to get us about 3 leads a week. Some weeks it might be more, some weeks it might be less, but generally speaking, we might be able to count on that, okay? So like, for example, here are the things that we want to focus on in terms of predictable, right? Is when we focus on repeatable, one of the things that I ask my members to do is to build a scorecard so that we can start tracking what's actually happening. Because right now, a lot of the questions I asked you around the metrics and the measurables, how many leads are we getting from this? How much time are we putting into it, right? So when we start to get repeatable, we start to scorecard stuff and we start to see, oh, I put in this much energy and I get this much yield, right? I put my foot on the gas for this long and it takes me up to 50 miles an hour, right? And what happens when we get into predictable is we want to start to create a system around this thing. And we want to start to delegate this work off of your plate because it is predictable, it is repeatable. We could probably go back to your engine here and we could start putting a dollar value on what a lead is worth to your business, right? So if we said, hey, if we get 5 leads and one of them becomes a $10,000 client, we can start to figure out how much these clients are worth. And so it makes sense to say, you know what, David doesn't have time to go in and ask all of our clients to post a review to Google My Business every single week. David doesn't have time to go and get 1 new directory a month. But if we know that this is going to help us to get more results from the Google My Business engine, and we know that we can run some simple math that every 5 leads we get a client's worth $10,000 or 20 or 50, right? We can start to put some actual fuel in our engine, because right now what I'm seeing from you, David, is you are somewhere between these different stages of a predictable and scalable engine. And here's what happens at scalable, okay? At scalable, we bring in this idea of double, okay? So the fastest way for me to tell you right now that you could probably double the amount of appointments that you have on your calendar, if that's something that you want, right, is to look at this engine and look at these different stages. Now, right now, you're not spending a huge amount of time on this. So far, the only major word I heard in terms of real fuel and awareness is you guys got on 200 directories.
Which was an investment.
Well, it was an investment, right? But now it's gotten you to 2 to 5 a week, right? And now if we want to get to 5 to 10 a week, the question is, what do we double? Right? We have this system, it's proven, it's there. Like if this was my business, which again is your business, not mine, you can do whatever you want. But I would look at these two engines. I would just stop social media. I would not stop it forever, but I probably would stop it for now. And I would just I would become obsessed with my Google My Business and Google profile. How can we get twice as much traffic coming to this profile? Can we pay for ads? Can we get 400 directory listings instead of 200? What happens if we double the amount of reviews that we have that are 5 stars? Can we look at other categories of keywords? Right now we're getting ranked really well for web design. Can we look at other categories like digital marketing, social media, content marketing, right? Those kind of secondary ideas that we know our clients have problems similar to web design that we can help them with, right? I'd be looking at all those keyword groups and thinking, how can I get twice as many views coming to my Google My Business listing? Because if I get twice as many views and everything else holds constant, I'm probably going to get twice as many appointments. Okay? And there's this phrase that I want to leave you with, and we're going to jump into Harry's marketing engine, is find the ceiling. Instead of going out and finding, if feeling guilty for not posting on social media all the time, or feeling guilty about not doing ads, or feeling guilty about, not launching a podcast or doing good content marketing, or feeling guilty that you haven't updated your portfolio with one more thing, your scorecard essentially is, what are those activities that are going to help you to take this engine and see if you can double the results from it. And if you tell me, hey, you know what, Brent, I worked on this for 3 months and we tried this, this, and this. We invested, 100 hours into trying to grow and scale this engine, and we're still at 2 to 5 appointments per week. Then that tells me that you've found the ceiling. You can say, hey, you know what? We tried all of this stuff and we weren't able to get any more gas out of it, right? This actually happened to me, right? We were advertising through Facebook ads. We started out, we were spending $500. Then, over time it was $1,000, then $2,000, then $4,000, then $8,000, and $16,000, then $32,000, and right around $60,000, we kept doubling. We saw our cost per lead skyrocket, and we saw our customer acquisition skyrocket. All of a sudden we found the ceiling, right? How many web pros are there on Facebook that are looking for our stuff, right? We found the answer to that, okay? So with this idea, right, we want to help you put the blinders on and say, you know what, for now, we can, if you can get something totally off your plate, like the social media, if you can totally delegate that, then, I'd say have somebody else do that, but then focus all of your attention on this engine and just build your KPIs, 3 to 5 numbers that you're going to track weekly of inputs and outputs. Start tracking how many appointments you're getting per week, and you're going to try some stuff. And I can't give you the silver bullet for what's going to work today, but you're going to try some stuff with the mindset of double. How do we double the inputs? Enough inputs that starts to double the outputs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Cool, dude. Thanks for jumping in today. We're going to go to Harry next, man. And if you have any questions, man, just throw them into, or we can maybe have some time for Q&A here at the end. Harry, you ready, dude?
Yeah.
I think we're doing LinkedIn today, right?
Yep.
All right. So while I'm writing on this, so you're getting some appointments through LinkedIn. I think you told me off camera, how many are you getting per month about?
About, in the first quarter, we got 20. So about 6 to 10 a month.
6 to 10 a month. Okay, so we'll do 6 to 10 per month, which actually comes out to what? That's about two-ish per week?
Yep.
Right. And the reason I'd like to track this kind of thing on a weekly basis is you'll see below here, we have this nice little KPI progress tracker. And, looking at weekly measurements it's a really nice pulse for marketing activities, right? When we have monthly measurements, it's just a long unit of time, whereas like units of effort are much better measured on a weekly basis. So I always like to see stuff coming out of weekly. So what are you doing on LinkedIn to get you leads?
I also have my scorecard, Brent, in case that helps. It's a weekly scorecard as well. I can share, or you can share as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely. I don't know if you have the ability to share, but let's take a look, man.
Let me share. Yeah. Let's see. It is weekly. Are you able to see it?
I'm going to add it to the stream right now.
There's probably a few names, but it's okay.
If you can go a little bit, yeah, if we can go bigger on that guy, that'll help me see it on my stream screen. Cool, dude.
So on the top is our content scorecard. So how many pieces of content going out from my feed on LinkedIn, from our company's feed. We are doing stories every day. We are doing text-based posts every day. So we are tracking on a weekly basis. There are some goals per week. So if it's a green, we are meeting our goals. If it's a red, it's not meeting our goals. This is on the content side of things. The marketing engine that is giving us 20 calls in the first quarter, or 8 to 10 calls a month. That's our LinkedIn outreach driven engine. So that's really based on number of connection requests we are sending out on a weekly basis. So you can see 350 to 500 connection requests. Is that visible?
Yeah, so 350 a week is your goal?
Yeah, 350 to 500 connection requests going out on LinkedIn. And then we are connecting anywhere, as you can see here, 70 to 100 people a week. So this is just people saying, yes, they are just connecting with us. Yeah.
So we got 70 to 100 connected. Then what happens?
And so that's that's like my second most important metric, like this conversion rate, sort of, right? How many people we send requests, how many connect. And the quality and the percentage here depends on the quality of our message, the quality of our targeting, so this is one of the most important metric. And then a lot of those turn into, so yeah, you connect with people and some folks are responding, they are saying, hey, can I know your costs? Can I know how you guys are working? They're asking questions. So we term that as a response or a positive response. So you can see like, these are, so about 10 to 15, right? People are responding on a weekly basis, sometimes less, sometimes more. Yeah.
So you've got responses and you've got positive responses.
Yeah. So if somebody is just saying, thank you, even that counts as a response, because a lot of people don't even care to say thank you, So somebody saying thank you or, hey, I'll keep you in mind is a little bit of a response. Somebody asking, can I know how you guys work? Can I know what are your rates? That to me is somebody who's more interested. So it's a little subjective, but we count that as a positive response. Yeah.
Yep. Got it.
And then
it wasn't like screw off or whatever, right? That's don't ever contact me again, right? So outbound, obviously, that's part of the game, but got it. So it's not just a response; it's a positive response. And then what's the driver, right? What point is there an offer for a conversation, and how does that work?
So what we've seen is, like I said, right? We reach out to 350 to 500 people, 70 to 100 people connect, and I feel like at any given point, 2 to 4% of the people we are reaching out to, they are in a B2B professional services market, right? They are interested, right? Presentation design is something everybody wants in a way. At any point, I feel like 2 to 4% of our market is probably ready to buy, So it just happens that we reach people at the right time and they are like, oh, I need a presentation. Or they are like, I'm struggling with this. Maybe let me reach out and understand how you guys work. Or I might need a presentation in the future. Let me reach out. So that's how these 20 or so calls are coming. These are typically after that first message, people are themselves saying, I think I'm interested. Let's have let's connect, or maybe they'll ask a question or two and that leads to let's connect.
Okay. So is they're initiating the offer to connect, or are you guys actually suggesting like, hey, maybe we should schedule a call?
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of a nurturing going on where somebody asked a question and we answer. We've also started we will sort of stimulate conversations too. So we'll send them a PDF in the LinkedIn message itself saying, hey, what do you, hey, we have put together a portfolio of, our projects working with people like you, So give me a second. Sorry. And so, yeah, we will sort of be like, hey, here's our portfolio. What do you think? Or some people are pretty much like, we hit them at the right time and they have a need coming up in the future. And so they will be like, let's connect. Here's my email, or reach out to my assistant, let's connect. So that happens, as well. So I'll show you an example if you want to, or else I'll stop sharing the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. So we have, so what I'm seeing here right off the bat, Harry, is, obviously, so first of all, the system's working. Right. You're getting, 20 calls a quarter, about 6 to 10 a month. You're getting 2 a week. You have some awareness both in your content to kind of stay relevant. That's like organic social. That could be its own engine in of itself, right? That it's like more of a content driven engine. I do see how it complements the outbound outreach because
100%, 100%.
If they see your message and then they go to your profile and it's crickets, then there might be some credibility issues. It might not make the funnel work as well, right? But the real magic here, the real awareness engine here, and let me remove your. Sorry, didn't mean to remove you there, David. So if I pop back over to my engine planner here. Let me find there we go. You've got like, and a lot of people think like, oh, an outbound engine doesn't have like an awareness, or it's not the same as like an article. And in a way, it's the exact same, right? Instead of you posting something on a one-to-many channel, you're just making a connection request. Like that's a form of awareness. Because imagine this, like somebody could they could see your connection request, and what do they probably do? They click to your profile. Right. So like in and of itself, that's like an awareness building campaign, right? Then once you actually are connected with them and they become, your connection or whatever within LinkedIn, that's some awareness in and of itself. Right now, all of a sudden you're able to post content and it's going to show up in their feed. You can send them messages. There's all sorts of stuff like that. Plus you're going to send them a message with that. Once you're connected, really what's happening when they connect with you is now you're sending them a message, right? So the connection is part of the awareness, but really the awareness is you're now sending them a message. And you're calling it a response, and this is probably slicing hairs. Like one of the things that we call this in our outbound campaigns is conversations, right? Because if I just say, like, let's say I walk up to you and I'm like, hey, Harry, what's up, man? And you don't respond, right? Like that's not a really fun, that's not a conversation yet, like, right? A conversation requires two to tango, right? And so I look at that as like a conversation has been initiated, right? There's been a serve and a return. Hey, Harry, what's up? And you say,
yeah, what's up? Tell me.
Yeah, cool, man. We're having a conversation, and to me, conversations don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be a pitch. It doesn't have to be like, let me tell you all about my thing, right? It can be conversations can be, some of the best conversations are, these really rich serve and return type of things, right? I don't know if you've ever been to like a cocktail party or something like that. And there's like one person that just like kind of, commands, is just talking all the time and like nobody else gets to kind of mingle, right? And so you really want those opportunities to like mingle with other people and have conversations. And so having that kind of serve and return environment would be what I'd call a conversation. And so you're basically tracking about 10 new conversations started per week, right? Right now, when we kind of walked through it, I was a little bit weak on kind of what I'd call like a strategic driver, something that is measurable, that you can really look at. That's the step before the call, right? You did mention that you had the resource drop, which I think is great. That could be something that you could measure as a way to, it might not be necessarily driving to a call, but it is driving to a conversation being rejuvenated, right? It might be like somebody goes cold on you. Oh, hey, I was thinking about you, created this resource for you, et cetera, right?
Exactly.
So that's something that you could look at, the relationship between a resource drop and, which maybe you have 3 or 5 resources, and then you could even track at an individual lead level, which resources have I given them? How many resources does it take before we build enough trust, right? And then really I think, having some kind of call offer. Now, I realize we want this to be organic. It doesn't need to be like, hey, I think we need to do a strategy call, and here's the link to my calendar. Please book a strategy call, and here's the benefit. I think in a chat environment, a messenger environment, it could be as simple as like, hey, maybe having a quick call or maybe having a quick chat sometime would be a value, right? That could be as simple as a call offer, but starting to measure that, because that's really, that's really the driver. It's like, is there something that we can do that is going to drive these, right? Go from conversations to call offers to calls, right? And so let's say, for instance, we looked at 10, we want to initiate 10 conversations per day. And how many of those are we able to get to a call offer? The other thing would be how many people in terms of responses, how many people are we following up with? Would be another possible thing to look at. How much time are you spending per week on this? Do you have a team member, full time, etc.?
Yeah, I have a full-time marketing manager. He spends a lot of time on LinkedIn outreach, helps with content, does a little bit of we do twice a month email. He manages the website. So yeah, he's a marketing full-time support. And I think,
So
I
on
would
the
say
LinkedIn, what is he doing?
probably 50% of his time is in LinkedIn outreach itself. That's his number one priority. Yeah.
Yep. And any other money or cost of this work?
We do use an automation tool to automate our outreach. So that's about $100 a month.
Yep.
Yeah.
So negligible. And
Yeah.
what's a client worth to you?
From my annual expectation from a client is like $50,000 a year. So yeah. And LTV is definitely bigger. Yeah.
Yep. And then from those 2 appointments per week, how many of those turn into a customer?
So we are very selective as well. Like we want to have the right fit. I'm okay with saying no. Clients are okay with saying no as well. So I've had 2 large clients in the last quarter, which are exactly the clients that we want to work with. Yeah.
So out of 20 leads,
Right.
that got to 2 clients.
Yeah. So there are so out of those 20, right, you can further dissect. Not everybody is ready to buy something right now. Then we were not
Yep.
a good fit for a few. And then some of them are sort of going to be part of our nurture. And I feel like maybe a couple of them we are talking right now, a couple of them could convert in the future or may not.
Got it. Yeah. So obviously there's going to be that, we can look at the big picture, like 2 or 3 years of LTV. We can look at the big picture as in the amount of leads that came through this engine in the intentional part of the engine, right? That did not convert into a call that maybe we're going to nurture with email or we're going to nurture with long-term social. And I personally view those as other engines, right?
Right.
Like I basically am like, all right, hey, we moved somebody through this engine. They did not book a call, but hey, now they're on our email list. And, for another engine, right, we would have email list as one of our fuel, right? That would be a fuel, basically people that come out of this engine as exhaust, they're going to go into another engine as fuel, right? And obviously you've got, is there some upper limitation in terms of LinkedIn of how many people that you could potentially reach out to? Is there a total amount of people in this list that you think you know of?
I think the limitation is LinkedIn itself. They're not allowing sending too many requests. So they are throttling the number of requests going out. So
How many, what's the number?
it's not really publicly out, but I think it is less than 400 or 500 connection requests a week. And they're kind of, depending on the person, they are putting limits there. Yeah. So
Got it. Okay.
we're getting those messages. Right now, my outreach is not working right now because I reached my weekly limit already. Yeah. For example.
So they said, down, Harry, down. You're too much, right? Too much for us, right? So when I look at this engine, right? First of all, going back up to our planner here, and this is going to be good for us to kind of close on. And I'll give you some thoughts, Harry, before we end
Sure.
Today. So you had a strategy: generate leads through LinkedIn. You proved it. You started getting appointments, right? And you doubled down on it. Like you started putting more and more investment into it. Quick behind the scenes. So Harry actually is a member of our U Academy Pro program. So he's got this beautiful scorecard that he's created. He is actually turning this into a system. You can see he's tracking these numbers every single week. It's predictable, right? He's turned it into a system. And really the question of essence right now for this engine is, what's the ceiling? Right? At what point are we going to find an upper limit on this, right? And so we want to bring this idea of double into our thought process. So, when I look at this, I go, okay, where is there opportunity to double. Like you're getting throttled on the connection requests. So that's an area where you know, unless you know, and I'll talk about my big idea there, but like we're probably going to look very closely at like this number, right? How can you get your numbers of conversations up, right? And that's gonna depend on your scripts. That's going to depend on the value that you're putting in there. But like I would get laser focused on that number, right? Because if this number right here is getting kind of fixed, you know, is there anything that we can do in that message request content to get this number up? Like, could we go from instead of, you know, 70 people connecting with you and getting
exactly,
you know, yeah, out of 350, could we get that to 140 by changing our scripts? The other thing I'd be looking at is what are we actually sending in our content? Because right now we're getting around 10 positive responses a week or 10 conversations. Is it possible to move that number up to 20? Right. So I'm going to look at that number really hardcore. The other thing I'd do is look at what are you doing to follow up with people that, you know, out of these conversations that are happening, they kind of go dark, right? I mean, that's definitely something to look at, right? How many follow-ups? So we did this with our outbound routines was we had, you know, 25 new conversations a day, and we weren't thinking about follow-ups at all. And so we started measuring follow-ups per day, and we started turning the follow-ups up to like 50 follow-ups a day. So people that we're already connected with, having conversations, just staying top of mind with them and really going back to those old conversations and pulling those up. And even though we had a limit of the amount of outbound, we could basically get a lot better results out of that. So looking at that follow-up component, and then this is the other big thing, right? I mean, these are your other big levers, right? Is, you know, is the 400 a week becoming the upper bound, right? So if I were to double this, right, like what's the big idea? How do we go from 400 connection requests a week to 800?
Yeah, right now you can, but I think you can work on
if I had an account and you had an account, could we get to 800?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Is it all coming from Harry Shaw right now?
Yeah.
Right. So now we're talking about, okay, can we create an environment where, you know, there's 2 influencers at Outcreate? There's 3 strategists, there's 4 strategists, and we're creating a content ecosystem through the Outcreate brand where you have multiple personalities, right? Like, again, I'm not saying this is going to go work for you, but that's going to be a way for you to potentially create more leverage is if you kind of go, hey, you know what? I've got the main Harry Shaw account, and now I've got these other personalities that we're building up within our company to become LinkedIn influencers to promote the Outcreate brand, right? So that's like a big idea of going, okay, there's this up. If we can't figure out all this stuff as a lever to double it, then I'm going to look at the fuel source and I'm going to say, how do we break through these limitations? How do we create a second account, a third account? And that's a big idea. But if that helps us go from 2 clients a quarter that are each worth $200K lifetime value, right? So 400K of business, right? I mean, these are big wins that we could potentially have here. If we can double that into 500 or 600K that you're winning in new accounts per quarter, right? That's going to be a mechanism for you to grow this. Now, if it's like, hey, we've tried that idea, we've tried this idea, and it's just not getting us to we're not able to double the output. At that point, I would go back to my question, right? Have we found the ceiling? And at some point, the answer to that question is going to be yes. Like we have pushed LinkedIn to the point of breaking and we can't get any more leads from it. Now it's time for us to look at other traffic sources, other engines, go through this exact same process, right? You're going to delegate everything off of your plate so the system runs 100% without your direct supervision. And then you're going to go and start building essentially a second marketing engine. And that could very well be a different team that your marketing manager runs. It could be a completely different skill set, right? But basically that would give me the clue, that would give me the signal, hey, it's now time for us to go create another engine. We found the ceiling. We have tried everything that we can to try to get more results out of this, okay? And that's the piece that so many people don't do it. I know you've done the double philosophy, I think already, Harry, to a certain point, right? And it's just looking at that engine one more time and going, what else can we double? Are there other opportunities to get more output from this engine? And at some point that, you're going to get some diminishing returns. And that's where you can kind of pull back a little bit. So you're kind of at that optimum peak with your effort to results ratio. And then you just let it run. You keep it on a scorecard. You're just managing it week over week. And then you're going and you're building, a second engine.
Yeah.
Or a third
engine. Right now, like that 70-100 connection, right? We are trying to improve that. One of the options is, should we hire a junior person, right? Who's able to personalize each request and increase that conversion rate. You can increase the 400, can increase that 70-100, like you mentioned, to more than 140 or so. So that's where we are focused on. But you're right, at some point we might exhaust it. I do understand that content is a big enabler, which is a different engine, but will work with the same connections. And so I am working on content in parallel as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're, another content engine, right? I mean, obviously content is pretty, you're going to have some kind of post, right? Maybe some pictures or whatever, right? And your fuel of your content, part of it is your list. Another thing that's great with content is ads, right? Is if you were to create a second engine and having your outbound engine just kind of run, and then you created a second engine that was powered by a growing list, and it was powered by ads, and it was it was content that you're pushing onto these social media platforms. Like that's its own engine by itself, right? That you want to separate. The fun part is when you get two performing engines, there's oftentimes benefits between the two, right? The better your content is, the more authority you have on LinkedIn, the more organic conversations are going to be started with your outbound team, right? And that's going to help lift it up. But what we want to do is we don't want to jumble it all together into one engine, because when we jumble it all together, we start to lose sight of like, what's the mechanism that's actually getting us results. Okay. So I would definitely separate your content engine or an ad engine within LinkedIn as its own scorecardable thing that we're looking at distinctly for that engine. And then you've got your outbound engine, and eventually you might start seeing some cross engine benefits to those.
100%.
Dude, this is awesome. Couple of key takeaways from you guys, and we're going to wrap up today's session. Dave, I'm going to start with you. What's kind of your big aha from unpacking your engine and getting clear on some of that stuff?
My big takeaway is looking at what's actually working and drilling in harder on that, rather than spreading myself out into all these and not being able to really drill into any one specific thing. So I think I need to look at my GMB a little bit closer and this lack of strategy, I would say at this point, and how to improve that.
Yeah, dude, you've got to, there's intentional strategies, and then there's accidental strategies. And it doesn't really matter how we get there, right? It just matters that we get there. So you've got something that's working for you. I think the biggest aha for me is seeing you realize that today and going, you know what, maybe I can give myself permission to just really double down on this thing that's working. So
yeah, right
awesome,
on.
Dude.
Thank you.
Harry, quick takeaway from today?
Oh, it was really helpful. I think going back to the concept of, double, or, where you can put fuel, that was helpful. It reaffirmed some of the ideas that we had that was there. And I think the big idea, like, could there be another person, right, on behalf of who we can do outreach? There are some nuances to it, but it's a really cool idea. I didn't think about it. So that's a good takeaway. I'll keep that idea on my, pipeline and see when we can, maybe we can potentially test it. Yeah, I have a good guy on my team. I could leverage his, LinkedIn as well. Yeah.
There you go. And that might take some of the heat off of you, right? Build up a crew of stars within your business. So, guys, this was amazing. I've got a couple of quick notes here for today before we close up on our session. So, thanks again, Harry, for being here. Thank you, David. You guys have been amazing today. So, quick word from Cloudways before we head out today. We've got another masterclass coming up here in a couple of weeks to finish out this Get More Leads masterclass. But before we talk more about that, the the Cloudways Agency Partner Program. Check it out, cloudways.com/agency. If you are a digital agency, if you are offering web hosting as part of your services, if you are building web apps or custom apps as part of your services, and you're looking for somebody to provide that middleware service, so you don't have to have DevOps people, sysadmins, you don't have to have those really expensive salaries of people that know how to run those servers and those Amazon environments, then Cloudways can help. So if you guys check that out at cloudways.com/agency, Cloudways understands that digital agencies have unique needs that regular Main Street and corporate businesses don't necessarily have. You've got lots of clients. You're managing a lot of different stakeholders. You need better and more access to support. Maybe you need some better pricing, some discounts, things like that. You might also need specific resources just for agencies. Some things that we're doing for the Agency Partner Program members are exclusive agency content, exclusive coaching, exclusive access to specific tools and resources. So if you're interested in learning more about the Cloudways Agency Partner Program, check it out, cloudways.com/agency. And right now they're open for a wait list. So you got to sign up on the wait list, and you'll get more info from the Cloudways team when that comes out. So definitely check that out. I've been a big part of the Agency Partner Program over the last few months, and the feedback that Cloudways has gotten, whether you're a new Cloudways customer or an existing Cloudways customer, as long as you're an agency, you definitely want to be a part of that program. So check that out. All right, think about this for yourself. You guys got to see 2 marketing engines where we unpacked these engines. We got really specific on a Google My Business engine, on a LinkedIn engine. There's a lot of different types of marketing engines out there, and I want you to start thinking about engines and not tactics. It's not, hey, I should start a YouTube channel or a podcast. It's, how is this going to drive more appointments for me? And really think of those individual steps, from fueling your engine to building awareness to having some kind of conversion driver and measuring the output to appointments, and get obsessed about the engine before you go on and create another engine. We don't want to have, 50 half-built bridges within your business. So hopefully you've got a takeaway or 2 for your business today. And finally, plan out some next steps. Don't just take some learning from today, but what are the 1, 2, and 3 things that you can implement for your business from today's session to get more leads from your digital agency? So excited to have you guys here today. Again, make sure you check out that Agency Partner Program. We've got another masterclass coming up here in 2 weeks, scaling and automating your lead engine. So today we got our hands dirty with Harry and David. We got in there and looking at their engines. In 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about scaling and automating. So once you have an engine, once it's proven, how do you start to get yourself out of the weeds of actually having to deal with the engine? And what are some of those tactics? You heard me talk about them a little bit today with Harry and David, but what are some of those tactics that you can use to actually scale your engine? So that is our program today. Really excited to have you guys here as a part of our Agency Breakthrough Masterclass series. I've had a lot of fun teaching you guys this content. We've got more in store for you in 2 weeks, and that is our program for today. Until next time, I'm Brent Weaver.